What's up guys, it's that Panda again. I'm here again with another video, and today we're going to be doing another tier list video. It has been a while since I did my last tier list video, but I did think that it was about time for me to refresh everybody's memory. I know there's a lot of new heroes. There are two new heroes that I'm not going to cover because I do not have enough information about them yet. They have not been used on the battlefield or anything, which is Chasey and Felix, and I am super shaky about where I think they will end up ranking in the future, so I do not want to cover them without with very shaky feels, where I'm not understanding. I also want to make you guys understand that at the end of the day, this is my opinion, so I want you guys to take it as you will, obviously. I will be giving you guys obviously my reasoning for why I maybe rank heroes, why I rank them. But yeah, let's hop into it and let's just talk about it. I will be a little bit more ruthless than I normally am with my tier list, and I'm sorry I forgot to do this. I will be a little bit more ruthless than I normally am with my tier list today, though, because I do think that this one deserves a little bit more scrutiny, right? I think that I need to be ruthless, and I need to let you guys know who you shouldn't invest in, etc. And I will tell you guys right now, anybody who's D or F, I 100% recommend you guys to ignore, except for, well, maybe Maxine, because, get her up enough to farm, right? But we're going to throw Maxine right off the bat in F, and let's just hop right into this video. So for Maxine, she deserves an F because, generally as I rank these are ranked off of how useful these heroes are to me as PvP heroes, and she's not a PvP hero. She doesn't offer anything in that aspect really, and she's a good farm hero, but she just deserves F. Nothing really for me to explain there. Going into my next hero, we're gonna try to hop around so we're not doing the same thing. We're gonna do the other farming hero. We're gonna do Sarah, and I'm gonna rank her kind of shaky, but I'm gonna rank her B, to be fair. And also she's blanked out because when I added her here, I didn't have her unlocked, okay? But she is ranked B, and the only reason I rank her B right now, and I do want you guys to take this with a grain of salt, because I do remember in the moderator chat the admins had mentioned maybe I think she was going to get nerfed, or not nerfed, but her third skill, which makes her so insane right now, because her thing stacks, right? So it makes her even faster. I'm pretty sure that's going to be nerfed / fixed in the next update, if it hasn't already been, because I know this might have been actually the next update that they were talking about. I'm not really sure, but she will probably be nerfed somewhat soon. So take that as you will, you know what I mean? But even then, I think that she's an extremely fast engine hero. She can be used for whatever purpose you really want her for. If it's node knocking, if it's just for moving around cement, or if it's just for gathering and getting in and out fast. For example, an archipelago raid when you're collecting, those, the stuff that you might need to get cement from. So just in general, I like Sarah. I think she's performs really well as a gathering hero, especially. Next, we're gonna do Jaden, okay? We're gonna put Jaden here. I think that Jaden isn't the worst hero to an extent, and the reason I say that is just because he's an early game hero that's really accessible, but realistically I don't want anybody investing in a hero because they're a good early game hero, and this dude doesn't really provide you any value late game. His skill damage isn't anything insane. Most of his skills aren't even PvP oriented, and if you try to make him a support hero, his skill damage gets cut in half. I don't really like his talent tree or anything. Just in general, he's not the most amazing hero. At best, he's maybe worth unlocking early game just because he's a Z-Virus hero, which makes him much easier to rank up earlier out. But in general, do not recommend him that heavily. I recommend you don't invest your stars or XP in a hero like this. And I'm going to actually do Lee next because I feel kind of the same about him. I like Lee. I've loved Lee for a long period of time, but I think Lee's time in the spotlight really has gone out. There's just so many better heroes now. Half of his skills aren't extremely useful if you're running him on the field, which I think is the only place that he really works. He does have AoE, fan-shaped AoE, which does make him somewhat useful, but even then, he's just not that useful anymore. He's super squishy. He gets targeted really fast on the field, and just in general, I have no real reason to invest in Lee at this point. If I was to start over, there's much better options and stuff. Like I said before with Jaden, he is good for an early game hero, but just in general, you don't want to invest in these heroes if they're only good at being early game heroes. So, don't really recommend investing in him. Next, what I'm gonna do is, we're gonna do a little whammy here. I'm actually gonna talk about Roro, and I felt a lot different about Roro recently, and one big reason is I think Roro has kind of pushed himself up in usefulness. And like I said, one big reason is I think that Riven has made him more useful, right? The fact that Riven is as good as she is right now, as performing as well as she is on Garrison, and I would say running on the field, she's not my favorite, but she does work. The fact that she is as useful as she is, and she does buff Ragoro's shield effect and stuff, it just makes her much better, makes him much better as a direct result. Not to mention, I don't think that he's like an amazing hero on the field. He's not like a big damage dealer or anything, but he's not the worst option, you know, especially if you're running a lot of infantry marches. He wouldn't be my first 2 picks, maybe one of my third if I was to run a 3rd march, or even a 4th march, right? But he's still a pick, you know, and I already have invested in a hero like this to the point where I wouldn't be against running him. He's not my first pick. Like I said, I would rather run a Dutt, I would rather run a Miyamoto, I would rather run Eddie. They just deal a lot more damage. They offer me a lot more in that regard, you know, but he is not the worst. You know, Infantry is obviously the most popular unit, which does make him even better to me because, you know, there's more reason for people to run, let's say, 3 infantry squads or 4 infantry squads than multiple range squads, just as an example, you know. So I do think Ragoro kind of earned his C spot in that regard, and for that reason. And talking about Riven, I will give Riven an S. I've actually personally liked her a lot more recently. I think that she's like I said, she's not my favorite on the field, but she actually works pretty to a good extent, right? She's not a bad field hero, and as a Garrison, she's just performed really well. I think when you kind of consider how meta is right now, and how, for example, Peterson. I'll talk about Peterson in a bit because I don't actually think that I don't hate Peterson. I actually still like Peterson. I'll tell you guys the reason why. But the thing is, you know, the issue with like a hero like Peterson is he doesn't put out a crazy amount of damage. All he really does for the most part is heal, whereas Riven is more of a damage dealer, and she is a really tanky one at that because, you know, like I said, with Ragoro, etc., you know, they have that tanky effect, whereas like they also have the shields and stuff, and they're putting out enough damage to kind of hurt the rally and kind of melt it fast enough to where you're not kind of just sitting and playing whack-a-mole with each other. Whereas, you know, Peterson, and I'm going to actually do something for Peterson, I wanted to make an AA rank for him, and the reason I'm doing an AA rank is because I feel kind of shaky about this. And to be fair, I actually, what the heck, wait what did I just do? Wait, give me a second, guys, give me a second. I think this is messed up. This was supposed to be, okay, well, we're gonna do this, all right? But I think that Peterson or whatever has, you know, he's still really good. You got to understand that he's still really good, and a lot of people might end up disagreeing with me. And the reason, you know, I think that, you know, anybody who disagrees with me in this regard is wrong, is because a lot of these people who do disagree or say that Peterson is bad generally are in G1 or G2. And I think you also have to consider the fact that not everybody's in these brackets. Not everybody's facing, let's say, 7 million Might Julias or just extremely insane heroes, whereas the majority of players, let's say you're in G30 or something, you're still going to see them running Peterson, and there's a reason for that. He's just much more useful. He's much more invested in already. And the healing factor is really nice to keep things topped off. A lot of these brackets struggle a lot more with keeping stuff full, so that does help a lot more. And like I said, you know, a lot less people have already invested in a hero like Riven, you know. Whereas even if you did invest in Riven and Ragoro, I don't know. It's just different, right? And you're still going to see really positive trades in the majority of brackets from someone running Peterson. And, you know, there's obviously a lot less people running like Ragoro and Riven. You see mostly whales doing it just because it's kind of how meta has changed. But, you know, it's not always going to be instant with the majority of people. You've even seen this with Jacob, for example. Jacob is a really good Garrison hero and stuff. I actually like him personally, but you don't see a lot of people running him. I've seen him run a few times in G1, but he's not run in like outside of like G1, G2, G3 a whole lot. You see it like very rarely, you know what I mean? You don't see a lot of range Garrisons, even though I think that range Garrisons do work and they're very effective. You just don't see it a lot because, one, people have invested a lot more in infantry, meaning that people have a lot more infantry troops just in general. You know, people are much more tailored towards infantry just overall, right? And even if you do range garrisons, a lot less people are able to listen to that and comprehend it as much as you would love them to, you know. So it's a whole different kind of playing field for me, and I still think that Peterson is an amazing hero. I think he's still a really good garrison hero, but if you're in G1 through 3 or something, you're probably going to get shredded with someone like Peterson. And overall, he's kind of been replaced, in my mind at least, by someone like Riven, because Riven does offer a lot more versatility. She's a lot, you know, like I said, more of a damage dealer. That's kind of what garrisons need right now in the current meta, given how insane these, you know, range rallies are, being Julian Bard. And now we're going to move on to the next hero. I'm not trying to pander too much on certain heroes. I just want you guys to understand why I kind of feel how I feel with some of these rankings. We're going to do Peter, and we're going to drop him F. And the reason I'm dropping Peter in F, I say this every time, but I think that Peter is just a really bad hero. I don't think he offers a whole lot anymore. You know, he used to be a lot better when he had like AoE or something, but that was quite a while ago. He's not really an amazing Siege hero. If I was to run Siege, I have better options. I have Infantry heroes that I'd rather run as a Infantry-specific Siege. I have Range heroes that I can run as a specific Siege. If I was even to do a mixed rally, I'd rather use my Infantry heroes to run a mixed rally. Peter, his skill damage subpar, his skills overall subpar. It's not worth the extra rally capacity, and that's all I really want to say there. Hank, I'm going to rank slightly higher because I just think that Hank is one step up on Peter. The fact that as like a Siege hero, I just think that he's slightly better, but even then he's bad at his job, and I don't think he's worth investing in. That's why I told you guys, anybody in DNF, I don't recommend investing in, but I will rank relative to kind of my thought process and stuff. So neither of these worth investing in, especially even if you're trying to run Siege, okay, just not worth it. And while we're talking about Siege heroes, I actually will just talk about Jhin. I will put Jhin as an A hero, A class, and I know I've talked about Jhin, how I don't really like him that much. I don't think he's bad, I just don't think he's amazing. But I've seen a lot of whales running him, I've seen the results with him. He's been a pretty solid commander, he's had pretty solid performances. I personally am not going to run him. I don't plan to run him. Even if I had him awakened, I don't think I'd even care to run him. But, you know, he's not the worst hero. He does increase your rally capacity. You've seen him a lot more with, like, Julia, Jhin rallies. But especially given the fact that Bard's now out, I think there's even less reason to run Jhin. I will say if you were to lack field heroes, for example, he is a possible contender. He wouldn't be my first pick as a field hero, but if you had spent a lot and you awakened him and you had very few heroes to choose from, I don't think he could have been the worst pick, you know, as a choice, you know. So I will say relative to that, he is a A rank hero for me. He's not the worst Siege hero either. So, you know, and considering the fact that all you have to do is spend money to awaken him, it's kind of easier than some other heroes that it might take you months to kind of grind up on or whatever, or take you a month or 2 months or just however long. Next, we're going to do Chun. I'm ranking Chun as a C. And the reason I'm doing this is because I just think that she's been pushed out of the spotlight. There's much less reason to invest in a hero like Chun. You have Julia. Julia is just much more versatile. A lot less people run, for example, two range marches on the field. There's no reason for people to run 2 range marches. And even if you do, I have Julia, I have Lynn, I have Lewis, I have Jacob, right? And I generally prefer them actually as overall investment heroes over her, right? I can use Jacob as a field hero and a garrison hero a lot more than I would use Chun. Not to mention the fact that Chun's skill damage gets cut in half if you make her a support hero. Overall, her skill set isn't bad. She's not a bad hero. It's just, you know, when you kind of get replaced in the spotlight like that, it's not really much of a big reason for me to kind of invest in a hero like this. There's just much better options now. Even if I were to run 2 range marches, which most people don't, I don't need her. I even use Victor right now as one of my range marches with Lewis, you know what I mean? And I've had pretty solid performances from Victor to the point where I wouldn't need Chun, you know, so whatever. Now to move on to the next hero, we're going to do Maya, okay? Now that we're talking about range heroes, Maya's going to get D. I think that Maya used to be pretty solid, but that's not the case anymore. There's just much better options like Chun, except she's worse. You know, she's much more squishy. Her overall skill set is much less useful. There's no big reason for you to invest in a hero like Maya, honestly. No reason at all, actually, you know, so frankly, ignore Maya. Next, I'm going to be talking about the last D hero I've kind of had on my mind, which is Martin. I think that Martin, he's the only hero that I'd say may be worth investing in as a D class, and the only reason I say may be worth is because if you're lacking, you know, if you're lacking heroes in your lineup, he might be worth it, you know, as like a tank healer. What I used to do is I ran him with Ragoro, or I'd run him with Tom, just to have the extra heals as a tank march. But overall, there's not much use for Martin, as there are so many other heroes that are much more useful, and his healing alone isn't providing a lot of use, kind of given the current environment and the landscape of the game. So generally, I would not recommend you to invest in Martin, but he is worth it more so than some of these other heroes, you know. So I will say he's the only hero I would consider maybe being worth investing in as a D. Next, we're going to do May, okay? We're going to rank May as a B, actually. And the reason I rank May as a B, which some people might disagree with, I will give you guys my reasoning for this. I don't think that she's actually a bad hero. And one reason I actually ranked her here is because just the fact that she is, one, unattainable right now if you didn't get her already during that one event, you know, and two, the fact that if you're to use universal fragments, not the May fragments, but universal fragments, the legendary hero fragments, it costs you double the fragments to actually skill her up compared to a normal hero. And I would much rather invest in someone like Bella and Elena, right, and just awaken them both instead of awakening May. And the thing is, I don't think May's bad at all, but you know, she really underperformed people's expectations. Like, I still would run May if I had her and I had her awakened, but in general, you know, she underperformed how people expected her to perform. She wasn't some, you know, god class hero that people were expecting to be S class and stuff. So overall, I just don't think that she deserves that place. And given, like I said, the fact that she costs double the relics for the average player more so, maybe if you're a whale, it's much more worth investing in. So I'll say, like, if you're a whale, maybe it's an A class, maybe it's an AA, right? But otherwise, it's definitely a B, maybe even lower, you know. Actually, probably not lower, but in general, you know, not worth it, right? Whereas I would rank Bella an S class just because, one, I have a preferable, you know, I'm more preferable towards Bella as an individual, but I also feel like I'm going to rank all the rider heroes right now, actually, at least the main ones that I'm thinking of. And it's kind of hard for me because I think that all these are actually relatively evened out, and I think they offer each other, or they offer stuff in their own regards. For example, Bella, just an overall really good round hero. I don't mind running rallies with her. I don't mind running on the field. Elena, still really also solid, really strong hero. If I was to run like 2 on the field, it would either be these 2 or it'd be these 2, right? But in general, I like riders because I don't think that there's been much of a shift in the current rider heroes that have been released over a long period of time, to the point where I don't think they kind of outshine each other, to the point where, for example, Chun or Julia, I don't feel like I have to invest in Julia and just say forget Chun, right? Whereas if I already had Kath, I wouldn't feel it's like necessary for me to invest a ton of relics in Bella if I have other heroes that I feel might be more of a priority. I think that they still perform just fine and stuff, and the only case that you might want to invest in one hero over the other is if maybe you're a rally captain and you want to work on this guy, right? Because he's a really good siege hero for riders in general. But yeah, you guys get my point there. I think generally the rider heroes are more so on an even playing scale. I would say the only one who's maybe like kind of falling behind would be Kath, but she's still really good. I think given that she's a $300 investment and you can instantly awaken her, given that she's really good, you know, considering those details and stuff. So overall, I'm going to rank them like that. You know, you can agree to disagree with me, but kind of just how I feel. Next, we're going to do John, and I'm actually going to rank John C. And the reason is, and I know I hate John, and the reason I hate John is because when he was released, and even now, you know, he doesn't offer anything exceptional. He doesn't offer anything that would pair him on the same playing field as these other heroes. You know, he's too niche, doesn't really offer me a lot in that regard. His skill set actually isn't totally terrible, but you have all these other rider hero options that are already outperforming him in multiple sections, and it's like, what is the point of investing in a hero like this when I already have Bella, you know, when I have Elena? And if, you know, in my case, I just considered him to be more of a counter rally hero. It's like, why would I invest in him to specifically be a counter rally hero when I have Bella and I have Elena that can offer me more in the field, and they can still run counter rallies even if they maybe perform slightly worse or something? Just in general, not really a worthy investment to me. I still ranked him C because he's not a terrible hero. Just on a similar playing field, I don't prefer him, you know, and I don't think he's all worth that. And while we're talking about that, talking about niche and whatnot, we're going to do Carrie, and you guys are going to be surprised, but I'm going to rank Carrie as a B. And the reason I rank Carrie as a B is because he does offer something useful. I just think that he's too niche, like I said with John. He's more of a, he's literally built to counter Peterson or any healers, right? Just by debuffing healing. And I've never liked Carrie personally because I don't like the fact that he's only good for kind of nerfing heals, whereas I think that you're going to be missing out on a lot of damage that could potentially come out from other heroes like Julia, or that could come out from Bard, etc. And I don't think that he's worth investing in Maybe for rally heroes at best, if you know, and I think it's very situational. For example, if a base is like kind of isolated and I want to drop it really fast and he has a Peterson on his wall, or if it's a tower that people are already struggling to fill, or if it's a village that I can control the field around and I really need to drop this Peterson as fast as possible, that would be maybe more so situational. And even then, that's just for rally leads, right? It's not really for the majority of players. And even as a rally lead myself, I have I'm also a main field player, so I don't really think that investing in him is a good option for me. I think it's a waste of my relics and stuff, and I have other heroes that provide me much more value, whereas I can run Julia and Lewis rallies and still get, I feel, like the same results, or I can run Julia and Bart and probably outperform that, what I feel like I'd get from him. Just don't think he's offering a lot or enough for me to kind of feel he's worth investing in. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to do Eddie, okay? Eddie, I'm going to rank A. I like Eddie personally. I think that he's a pretty solid rally hero. I like running him with my adult when I run rallies. Not only is he just tanky, he does good trades, and I think the fact that as a rally hero, I love the counter damage as well, because I get swarmed a lot in rallies, I get swarmed a lot in counter rallies. Just in general, makes him really good for this. Even if you're getting hit with a counter rally, it makes him that much tankier if you're deciding that you just want to hold this rally up and keep it going as long as possible. Just makes him that much better in that regard. I don't really have a big issue with him. The only issue I would maybe have is his speed, kind of one reason why people love Miyamoto and the adult pairs so much, just because they're much faster and it's much simpler in that regard. Next, and while we're talking about Adut and Miyamoto, we're going to talk about Adut and Miyamoto, and we're going to talk about Cynthia. So I want to say this, and the reason I'm going to rank Cynthia C. I think that she kind of gets ranked lower because there are heroes like Adut and Miyamoto, and there's even Mei now, which are just really fast heroes. More so Adut Miyamoto, in my opinion, when I'm thinking about them, is the fact that they're infantry heroes and, just really good heroes in general. And I'm sorry if you guys hear the background right now. But, I think that Adut and Miyamoto are a really fast pair, not to mention their trades. They can generally trade extremely well compared to like Cynthia, and I've done it myself. I've run these pairs around, and if I'm trying to just be fast and Cynthia might be slightly better, especially once she gets down to half health. So if you get caught and you get beat down, that might be a little bit better. But just in general, Cynthia isn't an amazing hero in that regard. She doesn't trade relatively well. If you have to end up getting in a fight while you're kind of running around, she's not going to give you the best skill damage. Her overall white number trades are much worse than you would get from Adut and Miyamoto, and there's just much more reason for me to run them if I'm even going around node knocking, if I'm going to end up going 1v1 fighting kind of when I get caught in the field or something, and my trade just come out is much better running like a fast strong pair, so there's not as much of a reason for me to invest in someone like Cynthia compared to Adut and Miyamoto these days. That being said, we're moving on to the next hero, which is going to be Adut and Miyamoto, and I'm actually going to rank them both S. And I know I ranked Miyamoto kind of lower before, and to be fair, I was much less savvy to how good he might have been, and to be fair, that also was my mistake, because I was thinking at that time, well, does Miyamoto offer a whole lot compared to these other heroes, and even at the end of the day, I even before seeing, when I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, he'd be one of the top few heroes that I pick as an infantry, lineup, but I wasn't sure if he'd be in my, my first squad, for example, and that was kind of a stupid outlook, given that he still was a really good infantry hero in general, and probably, obviously outclassed Roro, outclassed all these other heroes when it came down to infantry, but just in general, they're both really well-rounded heroes. I don't think there's a whole lot for me to say about them. I think as a duo as well, they work really well, given that they're as fast as they are, and they can just be, they're strong and efficient. They're a really strong, efficient pair. And even separately, they're really strong. So I don't really have anything I really want to say about them. I think their skills are well-rounded overall. So not really much for me to cover there. I also want to say I'm going to have a lot of S-class heroes here, or not a lot, but these are kind of heroes that I invest in for my own reason. And I do want you guys to know, I don't recommend every single hero you see in S-class investing. For example, I'm going to put Bard here. But I don't think everybody should invest in Bard. He's obviously a rally commander mainly, and I don't think he's going to be an amazing field hero. I think if you're obviously running on the field, you're better off with Julia, you're better off with Lynn, you're better off with Jacob, or that's it. Yeah. So I wouldn't invest in Bard if I was just an average player. Just so you guys know, because I don't want you guys thinking every single S class hero means, oh my gosh, I gotta do this. So keep that in mind, guys. Just so you guys know. Okay. That being said, Bard is just an exceptional rally hero. I've seen a lot of his results. I've seen a lot of the reports, and I kind of looked through them. And overall, his like damage output has just been much higher to me, at least, than like a Julia Lewis rally, at least by 10-20% damage increase, like probably around 20, right? And I think a lot of this is just because of the skill damage, because of his skills. He's just overall a really strong rally hero, and given that range rally meta is as popular as it is now, I think that makes him even better. Given that he's just a really good synergy. He's really good synergy for someone like Julia. I will do Tom real quick. I will rank Tom C for about the same reason as I ranked Roro, because I think that Tom is a really good infantry hero. Or not amazing, right? He's not my first pick on the field. He's not my second pick on the field. And maybe not even my third pick, but just in general, he's not like a terrible hero. Like if I was to have to run a garrison, I wouldn't be against running him on a garrison if like I didn't have other options like Peterson or I didn't have Riven or whatever, right? And on the field, he's not the worst. He's not my first pick, like I said. But just in general, if you had to do more options, he is up there for you to kind of throw on your lineup. And while we're talking about more infantry heroes, I will talk about Robert. And we're gonna do Robert, and we're gonna throw him B. And the reason I rank Robert B is because I think that he's a step up over like Ragoro and Tom in the field of infantry. He isn't my first pick when I go through like obviously my infantry heroes, but honestly if I were to run 2 infantry squads and I had the chance right now to invest in these heroes all over again, right? Because obviously I don't have unlimited universal fragments. I would probably invest in Robert, to be frank, right? And I know I say a lot that I don't care for Robert all that much, and it is true. But the reason I don't care for Robert all that much is because I have all these other options that do one up him. But in general, if I were to run like 2 infantry squads, Robert might be in there. If I was to run like a Dot Miyamoto and Eddie Robert, that would be a pretty good run through for me, right? That would be a pretty good pair up right there. But I can't just reinvest in like heroes like that. So he is on my kind of my potential back. Like, right, it's kind of like he's benched for me, right? I don't have a choice to invest in him right now. I still want to awaken my Miyamoto, which is, 1 skill off. I want to maybe work on my Riven next, which offers me more in that regard, right? Because I get to use her in Garrison, and she's not a bad field hero. So if I want to run her and I want a damage dealer, I don't mind running Riven, right? So, he's kind of on my he's on my bench, until I can kind of reevaluate my lineup, Next, what we're going to do is we're going to run Lewis, and I'm actually going to put Lewis as an A. And the reason I put Lewis as an A isn't because I think he's bad. I think he's still pretty good, but I think he's been outclassed in multiple areas whereas he used to dominate in. For example, Bard, is now my next best siege hero, or, I don't have him invested in yet, so I'm still going to be running Julia and Lewis. But, if I was to invest in Bard, he would be my pick over Lewis, right? He just isn't optional for me, or he's not my most optimal range hero. Obviously, a lot more people might invest in Lewis because Lewis offers them more as a universal hero, be it as Garrison, be it on the field, and be it as maybe a rally hero, right? So obviously, he still offers a lot in these regards. And honestly, I'm actually going to put him AA with Peterson for this reason. Because not everybody can invest in all these other heroes for, specifically rallying or specifically garrisoning, right? Whereas, like I said, though, for Lewis, he's not like my first pick on Garrison anymore, right? If I'm to run a Garrison, I might run Peterson and Victor. And if I had Riven worked up right now, I might run Riven and Victor. I might run Ragoro and Riven, right? I don't need Lewis, but he still works. If I was to run Peterson and Lewis, I wouldn't cry. But one of the biggest issues I have with him is the fact that people take advantage of his AoE skill and they'll send one-troop marches and, decrease his skill damage, etc. His AoE in general does make him more appealing, be it on the field, be it on Garrison, because people can't just like stand over your tower and kind of block it, or people can't just walk near it, or people can't just reinforce their rally without getting AoE shots. Just in general, Lewis does offer a lot in this regard, and he's a good Garrison hero, he's a good field hero, he's a good rally hero. Just he's kind of being put in the back line, and a lot of these heroes are kind of replacing him in that regard, and kind of just they're kind of overshining him, to make him less useful. That being said, we'll do Jacob next. Jacob is going as a B. And the reason I'm putting Jacob as a B is because I actually like Jacob as a whole. Or his name, yeah, Jacob. I like Jacob as a whole, but he's not my first pick for anything really. Because if I'm to run a garrison, I have no reason for me to run a range garrison, right? It's just much harder for me to invest in range. A lot less people do have range, as many range troops as they do infantry, for example. So there's a lot less reason for me to do it for that. Overall, like just infantry is just much easier to kind of run and stuff. When it comes to the field, I just have better options that I can run on the field. He's not bad at either of them is the thing though, and I like Jacob, but he's just not my first pick. I would put him as like more of a backline hero, kind of like on my bench, kind of like Robert, right? Like I think he's good, I think he would work, but I don't have a reason to invest in him. I don't have a reason to kind of work on him yet, and yeah, he's just gonna go B. Next is going to be Lynn, and I'm going to put her as an A. And the reason I put her A is because I actually think that she's a really good field hero, but that's about all she is. And when you kind of consider things, I'd even be close to putting her on B, because the thing is, at the end of the day, range is range, right? And, you know, I need a hero that's offering me more than just field, right? Good field. Because the thing about range is, it's still going to get picked off the field first, right? It's just the first thing picked off the field. She's not offering me a whole lot outside of just being a really good field hero, being a tanky field hero at that, right? Just maybe putting out more damage as she dies. And it kind of comes off as, well, what is the point of me investing in Lynn if I know that she's going to just be picked off first, she's going to die first, she's not really like, you know, like, because at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, I want to invest in this hero so she kills more units as she leaves, which, don't get me wrong, is a good thing, but I would rather invest in Julia and have her useful as a, you know, 1v1 hero, or just a really good glass cannon, or as a rally hero. There's no reason for me to invest in Lynn, right? That being said, we're going to put Julia as an S. I like Julia still. I think that she's an amazing glass cannon hero. I think she's an amazing rally hero, and overall her skill set is pretty well balanced, you know, compared to obviously her other skills. Just in general, love Julia. Julia is an amazing hero. And these other two heroes I'm also going to be putting in S. I really love buffer heroes in general. I think buffer heroes offer a whole lot, and I think they're usually overlooked, kind of like Alex. People overlooked on Alex a lot, which is this guy, you know. He offered a whole lot with buffers. It always took my trades over the moon, right? When it came down to arena, he would be the difference in me winning or losing arena a lot of the time. Even though he's not like putting out all this damage, he puts out a lot of buffs, which makes my heroes put out a lot of damage, and you know, obviously that's why I left him. And the same goes for Bianca. You know, I think that Bianca offers that in a whole lot of regards. And as for Victor, I think that overall Victor is just a really good garrison hero, and he's been really good at universally being useful, be it for infantry, be it for range, and potentially being it for riders, which are the new garrison, you know, units right now. So I guess we'll have to see how that works out. But overall, Victor has performed exceptionally well, and you know, especially if you're using him like on your shelter or something, being that you have so many different troop types, you know, being able to buff all these different troop types is really nice. So overall, love Victor, love what he offers me. And yeah, that is about it to the video. You guys let me know what you guys think, if you agree or you disagree with my heroes that I placed in here. If you guys want a little bit more reasoning for maybe why I ranked a hero where I ranked it, you can ask in the comment section. I did want this video to be fast. I know it was 33 minutes, but I did try to make this as fast as possible, and that's why you kind of hear me rushing throughout this video. I know these videos can be long, but I do like explaining why I feel how I feel about heroes, and that's why I, you know, kind of put them where I put them. Either way, I do appreciate you guys as always for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. And that is about it. Peace out.